nugget. We are growing fast. Almost 1,000 subscribers. Pura vida. Sunrise. Pretty fun out here. 20 seconds of swell almost. So the fact that this beach break is even holding, yeah, local knowledge, baby. So what really blows my mind is, even now, after all these years in Nica, when I'm telling people I'm about to go to Nica, people are like, man, it's so crazy there. Do you feel safe? Yeah. Nica is absolutely safe in 2025. You know what I'm gonna say, right? A bag of apples. To the middle section to start. When the tide backs out, we'll come back over here. Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna stay peaky, I'm telling you. That's the spot. Oh, slippery, really slippery. Be careful. Really slippery. Yeah. Beautiful here. Had like a little short session over there. 2 surf camps started showing up, and you know, they're the kook surf camps that do the longboarding for the girls, and you know, I got nothing on that, but when the conditions are like this and you have a group of 30 that's just gonna paddle out in the middle of the lineup with longboards and get in the way, it's just like an element of danger that you really don't want to mess with, because anything can happen in those conditions. With more boards floating around, was like more anything. And so I caught that last wave and I was just like, all right, time to move in. At least wait until the tide goes out a little bit, because I think it might even get a little bit better as the tide goes out. It's like dead high right now, and there's a lot of water on it, and it's a new swell. Look at that left. Pretty sick. Definitely still some fun ones coming in. It's 6 o'clock in the morning in Nicaragua. Do you know where your children are? Double up. side! Honk. Schlock. Getting better. It's getting kind of high now. Yeah. Might be time to take a break. Well, when it's this much swell, yeah, it's a closeout at high tide. We timed it just right. Like, we had about an hour there where we had some lined up waves. Now, like, man, I saw a wave over there that was at least like 6 or 7, 8 feet.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. It's like all the beginners are over there and there's like huge ass walls. Like,
Yeah. But it's softer over there.
I don't know.
It's softer. There's like a lot of white water, but it's softer. Here, there's at least like a little pitch. But that's why we can get shortboard turns. Over there, it's hard to get shortboard turns. All you can really get is cutbacks. Eat me. Don't eat me, you'll die. Yeah, so you gotta surf alone in this day and age. You really gotta go out and look for it, and that means you kind of gotta abandon the idea of only surfing where the waves are most perfect and in the magnet spot. I mean, you can surf alone in the magnet spots if you time it right, if you get lucky. But here where we are, we've pretty much surfed alone every single day. We've been here for like 5 days now, and really only one other day have I even shared the lineup with anyone other than Jen. Yeah, it's not perfect, but there's lots of fun waves. If you were anywhere else in the world besides Nicaragua, you would be stoked on this shit. And honestly, even in Nicaragua, I'm stoked on it. Oh, I might get splashed on this one. Come on, splash me. Come on, splash me. Nope, gut it out. But yeah, it was pretty fun out there. Nicaragua is the gift that keeps on giving, man. 20 years. 20 years of surfing with almost no crowds here. Because I'm just willing to go and look for stuff. Find new stuff. Get skunked a little bit sometimes. I bet Papoyo had 30 people on it today. I bet Freight Trains had 30 people on it today. I bet some of the points around here had 20 people on it today. I bet the Boom had 30 people on it today. Nah. We just surfed for 2.5 hours all by ourselves. And some days they barrel, and you can always get some turns. Alright, so let me philosophize with you guys for a hot minute. This is my point of view on surf spots. Alright, so when most people go on a surf trip, they tend to go to like the most name-dropped, most popular, most crowded surf spots that have been blasted in the magazines and online and on Instagram and on YouTube. And well, my philosophy, it's just a little bit different. You see, over the years, I've come to realize that there's something to be said for quantity over quality. And I've also really come to realize that you can have a bit of both. You can have high quality and high quantity. And more than that, if you look around and if you find your own way in life, you can have your peace. And on top of having your peace, you can have your peace of mind, because when you're not surfing with 30 people on one peak, like at the most popular spots around, you tend to have a better time just on a daily basis. That's one of the main reasons that I take long surf trips. Like, let me give you an example of this. My neighbor, who's in the casita next to me and Jen, he told me he went to the Boom this morning. It's about a 2-kilometer walk that way. It's fine, I could walk there. But he said that there was one peak and there were 30 heads on it this morning. And it was mostly closed out, and like 5 guys broke their boards. We surfed here alone. And yeah, it's kind of too high tide now, but there were some fun little peaks. We had about an hour and a half where we caught quite a few little waves. We were the only people in the water. We didn't have to worry about breaking our boards. We didn't have to worry about breaking our bodies. And we just had a good time together. People really only come to this spot at dead high tide, because it's kind of more closed out at mid-tide, and it's a little more hollow. And the people who come to this break, they tend to be looking for like easy waves. They tend to be riding more fun shapes. They tend to be riding longboards. Down there on the far end, there's a really popular longboarding area, which is still kind of too big today. But right in front here, there's 3 or 4 peaks that, you know, they break every day.
Shower. Big boo. What's up, big boo? Lots of bulls.
Chilling. Hi. Yeah, so this is the search. Like, this is why we do it. Can't really sum it up any better than that. Like, if you are stuck in your comfort zone, well, and if you're stuck in your comfort zone and you refuse to budge, you're not gonna find it. You're not even looking for it. Because it's out there. Oh, we're about to hit a puddle. I'm taking cover. Look at that moon. Yeah, but we're on it. Salt farms. Crunch. Looks pretty good. take this every day. That was fun. Quack.
Brum brum. Brum brum. Brum brum.
Sorry.
No, this is fun. Oh, no, sorry.
So why does this matter? Especially if you're interested in surfing Nicaragua, especially if you're interested in surfing beach break, you need to understand the forecast, you need to understand the system, the season that you're coming in. Because different seasons have different wave patterns. The waves come from different directions, and they also come at different intervals. You know, so one thing you really need to keep in mind if you're coming to Northern Nicaragua is that there are other spots other than the boom. You know, it's crazy to say that and like not have people realize that. But so many people come here and they just surf the boom. And there'll be 40 people out there on a day like today, guaranteed. And here, right around the corner, you know, a couple kilometers away, you can surf alone. And you know, I'll be honest with you, that's the case in almost all of Northern Nicaragua. It's kind of a beach break paradise here. If you just look around, yeah, I got that nasty saltwater taste in my mouth. If you just look around, you're gonna find like a lot of waves and a lot of unridden waves. And that's just the way it is up here. It's still hot. It's off the beaten path. It's not Popoyo. It's not as offshore as Popoyo. As you can see, the wind hasn't even really picked up. It's probably like 8 o'clock in the morning and the wind hasn't even really picked up yet. It doesn't even really usually pick up till 11. And usually by about 1 or 2, it goes on shore. So, yeah, Northern Nicaragua is kind of the dream. something I learned in 15 years as a snowboarding coach is that, you know, if you're in conditions that are really pushing your ability level, that are making you actually focus on the conditions, you're not going to progress as fast with the performance side of the sport you're doing, because you're having to concentrate so much of your energy on just staying alive and handling the conditions. Whereas when you take a step back and you get into conditions that are less challenging, you can work more on the things you want to work on. And for me, for example, in surfing, that's my turns. And conditions like today are perfect because they don't really challenge me in terms of, I'm not that intimidated by these types of waves. And so I'm gonna be able to push my limits performance-wise more than I would say if it was 6 foot and barreling. Yeah, so this ties directly in with what I was talking about yesterday. You know, where we just were, it's like super exposed to all the swells. It's really great in the dry season. It's really great when it's small. But once you start getting some swell, you need to come to like a little more protected spot. And as you can see out there, there's some headlands, there's some outer reefs. And then, you know, that breaks up the swell as it comes in. So even as you have like a 22-second swell, it's closing out a lot of the spots around. If you know where to go when it's like this, you can still find good waves. I'm not saying it's going to be like perfect or anything, and it definitely wasn't perfect, but it was definitely fun. Oh, there's one down there. Just fun waves that are not stressful and don't make you feel like you're going to like die on a regular basis. But yeah, it's high tide now. I think it's time for some breakfast. Pura vida. Another thing is the crowd factor, because when you're in a crowded lineup with a bunch of people at a famous surf spot, like say the Boom or Popoyo or Playa Negra in Costa Rica, places like that where you've always got a crowd to contend with, you're gonna be so focused on just trying to get a wave that maybe you're not gonna be so focused on what you're gonna be doing once you're up on the wave. Whereas today I really wanted to focus on my my rail turns and getting my surfboard on rail, and not only just getting it on rail, but also like completing the turn on the rail, switching back to the other rail and continuing down the line. And I really feel like I got a couple waves today that I really got to work on that, and that always feels really good. And that wouldn't really be possible if I was around the corner surfing at the Boom. Because, you know, as you can see, even now at high tide, there's only a couple people out. There's a couple longboarders out now because it's gotten a little bit mushier. Oh, she got one. Go, longboarder, go. Oh, why'd you jump off? You should have stayed on. But yeah, the conditions weren't super challenging. It was like maybe 3 to 5 feet out there. It's smaller than it's been in a while. Go, longboarder, go. No, longboarder, no. It's smaller than it's been in a while. And it was really fun, you know. I really did feel like I did get some work on my front side turns out there today. And so yeah, I'm pretty stoked about that. Smallest day yet this trip. So we should see some improvement as the tide comes in. It's a beautiful day in Nicaragua. Every day. Así es la vida. Todos los días en este país. Oh, rocky. No love.
Rocky. Nugget.
Mini waves. Yeah, so this is the smallest it's been in the 2 weeks we've been in Nicaragua. And we spent the first week in Salinas at a resort called Tesoro, where we were checking out the waves, where we're going to be going back in another couple of weeks. And now we're here up north at a little softer wave that's a little more friendly for progression. Just fun every day. It doesn't really close out when it's big. But yeah, like for me, this kind of surf is still super fun because I'm a Florida surfer. I grew up in Florida and I grew up surfing, man, waves like we had today here with nobody on them. This would have been one of the better wet days of definitely the season where I live in Florida. Like 2 to 3 feet and clean and lined up, and you can do some turns. That's a good day of waves in Florida. And I find that Florida surfers kind of have this same mentality no matter where you go. You know, I was talking to Aaron Gorkin the other day. He runs a board shop here near the boom. And Aaron Gorkin is a throwback, sick Florida surfer. And he was telling me that he brought some guys to these beaches where we're at right now, and they were really disappointed because they were from California. And, you know, we were laughing because we're both Florida guys. He's from New Smyrna, and I'm from up north. We were laughing because in Florida, like, you're just happy to be surfing. And surfing clean waves alone, that's winning. I guess we can call it like the Florida man effect. Because Florida man likes to surf. And Florida man gets stoked even when it's 2 to 3 feet, even when it's 1 to 2 feet, if he can get some waves. Just do it for the love of surfing. And so because of that, I'm kind of really thankful that I'm from Florida. Even though I'm lucky and I get to spend a lot of time in other places, ultimately, like, I am a Florida man. Real peeler. The tide's gotten pretty high. It's not full high yet, but it's really small, so it kind of needs to be mid-tide when it's this small here. Gonna get some breakfast, have some more coffee, maybe go out for another surf as the tide goes out. Hope everybody's having a good day. Pura vida. Yeah, so the land known as Nicaragua is no secret. The waves here, the perfection, the consistent daily surf, it's well known to anyone who's been on the internet and looked at waves for the last, honestly, for the last 20 years. Even since I've been coming here. Even when I first started coming here, the secret was out. There were guys, other Chiles like me, who were coming to this country, and they were taking pictures, and they were publishing the pictures, and they were starting businesses, and they were running surf camps, and they've been making money. There are guys who are 60, 70, even closing on 80 years old, who've been here for a really long time, and they've made their whole career off publishing Nicaragua. It's just the way it is in the surf world. People want to go where there's some fun, consistent surf. I'm not saying the waves in Nicaragua are the most perfect waves in the world, but they are some of the most consistent waves in the world. And anyone who doesn't know that at this point has literally just been sleeping under a rock, because the secret's out. Okay, like, what keeps the crowds down here is not that people don't know how good it is, because everyone knows how good it is. Missed it. Good one. getting to be high tide or higher tide. Yeah, so what really keeps the waves uncrowded here in Nica is not that everyone doesn't know how good it is. Because yeah, everyone knows how good it is, okay? Everyone knows. Everyone knows how good it is. All the time, okay? What keeps the waves down here, what keeps the crowds down here is that there are variables that you cannot expect in other, even Central American countries. Okay, so what do I mean by this? What I mean is, if you don't speak Spanish in Nicaragua, you're going to be very limited on where you can go and where you can stay and what you can do. Your ability to explore is going to be very limited because very few people here actually speak good English. And so what that means is, if you're coming here to surf and you don't speak Spanish, you're going to spend a lot of time struggling unless you stay with a surf camp or a surf operator who does. And so most people here stay at the surf camps, and that means they're going to be all consolidated on the most crowded spots. It's not like Costa Rica or even El Salvador or Mexico where so many people speak English. Historically, Nicaragua has been very isolated. That means it's developed a different culture than a lot of Latin American countries. Because the culture, it's isolated. That's also one of the things I love about Nicaragua. The people here are amazing. They're more welcoming to tourists than any other Latin American country. Because man, in Nicaragua, tourism feeds families. The next barrier you're gonna encounter in Nicaragua is the weather and the heat. Yeah, in the south, the weather's almost perfect. It's very similar to northern Costa Rica. In the north, the heat index can regularly reach 115 degrees, and very few of the habitations or the rooms have air conditioning. So, even though there are dozens and dozens of surf camps and hundreds of Airbnbs, during the high season, you're going to have a hard time finding somewhere with air conditioning. That means you're going to sweat. And that means you're going to have to deal with a certain amount of boredom and hardship because everything in Nicaragua is isolated. Woo, got one. But Costa Rica, on the other hand, everywhere is a party town. Everywhere that people go to surf, there's parties. There's big conglomerate grocery stores. There's air conditioning. And yeah, that's just not the case here in Nicaragua. It's different here. You have to be willing to tolerate some sort of hardship or uncomfortable situations if you're going to score. The final barrier that we're going to talk about today to scoring in Nicaragua is this one. Lots of people still think Nicaragua is not a safe country. You would not believe the amount of people, who even seasoned travelers, who I have in my inbox. Tide's kind of high. Yeah, you would not believe the amount of seasoned travelers that I have in my inbox saying things to me like, oh man, Nicaragua's so dangerous. I'll just go to Costa Rica. I'll just do this. I'll just do that. I'll just go to El Salvador. Like, okay. To put things into perspective, Nicaragua has one of the lowest crime rates in all of Central America. It also has one of the smallest populations. The only place that there's really crime here is in Managua. And even then, it's not that much compared to San Jose, Costa Rica. Don't believe everything that you see on the internet. Surfers, We're back in Nica, and today we have 5 tips for you that you're gonna need on your next solo surf trip to help you have more success in Nicaragua. Yeah, so tip number 1 might be a no-brainer, but the reality is, 1, you need to learn some Spanish. Nicaragua is not like a lot of other Latin American countries where most people speak English. There will be a small amount of people who speak good English and you will be able to talk with and who will understand you and you will understand them. But honestly, for the most part, this is going to be the exception to the rule unless you're staying at one of those expensive surf camps, which, as you can see, I don't like to do. The more Spanish you speak, the more options you're going to have in Nicaragua. If you want to find uncrowded waves, if you want to just rent an Airbnb somewhere and surf off the beaten path, you probably are going to need some amount of fluency in Spanish, because you're going to need to buy things, you're going to need to get around, and you're going to need to communicate with the local people. It kind of goes back to the whole no man is an island thing. So the next thing that you should know if you're coming to Nicaragua on a solo surf trip is that tip 2, you should probably bring everything you need that you can't get in your home country with you. There are some things here that are just going to be hard to get. Even things as simple as like surf wax and sunscreen are going to cause you problems here in Nicaragua. They don't import a lot of things, and the things that they import have a lot of high taxes. And so Nicaragua is going to be one of those places that you need to really bring what you need with you, man. And the things that you are going to be able to find here, they're going to be expensive, especially if they're specialty products like surf fins or leashes, or even, you know, surfboards, rash guards, board shorts. You're going to have a hard time finding any of that. And when you do find it, it's going to be really expensive and maybe even like of lesser quality. So let's talk about products that make my life easier in the tropics. As you can see, I'm a ginger. I'm very sensitive to that tropical sun. Badger balm makes everything better. And it doesn't give me zits. Nicaragua is still a developing country in a lot of ways, even though it's really opened its doors to tourists in the last 4 or 5 years. But with that being said, because it's a developing country, you're just going to have a harder time finding a lot of the things you need. And realistically, that's going to segue us into the 3rd tip I can give you, and this one's really important, especially if you plan to score solo or off the beaten path and you're not staying at a surf camp with a restaurant. And that's, you need to buy groceries with you in like the capital or one of the main cities close to where you're going to surf. Especially if you're going to like an Airbnb or a hostel situation. Even though there are stores at the beach, you're not going to be able to find a lot of the things you want or need. Even in the best stores, you're not going to be able to find those things. You're going to have a limited selection, and probably you're only really going to be able to get things like beer and local chips and rice and some beans, maybe meat if you're lucky, you know, like a Coca-Cola. But most things, like even olive oil, sometimes you're not going to be able to find. You're going to be on vegetable oil if you buy at the local beach stores. Whereas if you go to like one of the bigger supermarkets like a Pali, or my favorite is the La Colonia, you'll be able to find everything you want and everything you need. It's the same for lunch meat. In the La Colonia and the Pali, you're going to be able to find nicer lunch meat that's not super processed. Whereas if you buy lunch meat, if you're lucky enough to even find lunch meat in one of these local stores, you know, it's probably going to be really bad and really bad for you. So yeah, it's best to just stop and get groceries. So that means like Managua, there's a Walmart in Managua, or I think it's called Price Mart, but it's basically the same thing. And there's in Rivas, there's Maxapali and La Colonia. If you're going to Popoyo, you should stop there. And if you're going to Northern Nicaragua, in Leon and Chinandega, both there are places where you can stop, like La Colonia, and buy groceries. And yeah. So now tip number 4, and this one's really important. This one's really important. This should almost be tip number 1, but all the other tips have kind of led us to this. Because of the situation in Nicaragua, with groceries, with speaking Spanish, with supplies, you're gonna need to cook your own food a lot of times. If you're trying to not spend as much money as you would spend on a surf trip to like a first world country or even a second world country, like say Costa Rica, Chile, you know, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic. In Nicaragua, if you're gonna want good food, you're gonna pay for it at a restaurant. And it's gonna be similar to what you pay in the United States. If you want a cheeseburger from McDonald's, it's gonna be $7. And there are local restaurants where you can kind of get some good food, depending on where you're at, for an affordable price. But in a lot of places, that's not even the case. And if you go and stay at one of these surf camps, like those over on that hill, you're gonna be paying $12, $14 for dinner, maybe even more. Yeah, it's gonna be good. Yeah, it's gonna be nice. But ultimately, if you're going on a surf trip and you're spending $30 a day for your room, and that's cheap, you know, if you're spending $100 a day for your room and $60 a day on food, well, man, the cost adds up really quick, and you're up to $1,000 a month before you know it. $1,000 a week for a lot of people if you're staying weekly. That's kind of like more to be expected. Whereas the surf trips I go on and the surf trips I plan, my budget's more around like $600 or $700 a month, including everything, including transport. So yeah, even though it's listed as tip number 4 in this guide, you really need to learn to cook if you're gonna have a successful solo trip in Nicaragua. Okay, and number 5, guys. Number 5 is also equally important if you plan to get around in Nicaragua. You speak Spanish, you got your groceries, you know, cooking and all that stuff. That's great and all that. But you need to realize that you're gonna need to befriend a local taxi driver who's not gonna rip you off. Because that's the only way that you're gonna be able to buy groceries. That's the only way that you're gonna be able to get around from surf break to surf break without paying insane amounts from the English-speaking services. Which, I don't know if you've ever been here before to Costa Rica or Nicaragua or Central America and general El Salvador. It's the same in all these countries. If you're going to the English-speaking services off the websites on the internet, you're gonna be paying a premium per service. And that's just the way it is. Whereas if you can, for example, go to Managua or Leon or Chinandega or San Juan del Sur, and you can bargain with a taxi driver and you can tell him, hey, I'm gonna give you a lot of business over the next month, so work with me. They'll work with you because they want those US dollars and they want repeat clients and they want, when you come back, for you to use them again. So yeah, number 5 is super important. Maybe even one of the most important, because you can't even accomplish 2, 3, and 4 without number 5. Without a good taxi driver to drive you around, you're gonna be in bad shape. And if you're renting a car in Nicaragua, oh man, that's a whole nother can of worms. Renting a car is so expensive here. Maybe even just as expensive as Costa Rica, especially if you need a 4-wheel drive, because there's limited supply. Cars are really expensive in Nicaragua, even for Nicaraguans, because of what we talked about before with the import taxes. So here's a bonus tip. Yeah, there's a bonus tip. I said there was gonna be 5, but there's a bonus tip in this video. And the bonus tip is really, if you're going to a new place, even if you can find that property on the internet without using a third party like booking.com or Airbnb, especially Airbnb is great for this. You want to pay a little bit more kind of to rent through Airbnb or booking.com, because what they're going to do is they're going to have a lot of consumer protections for you that you're not going to have if renting directly from the property. Like, I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, here in the same area of Chinandega, we rented a a camp. I kind of like, it was like a camper kind of setup from a guy here. Like, I'm not gonna tell you where it is or what his name was, but we got there and the grass hadn't been cut in months, like a month. And here in Nicaragua, there are snakes. There was an outdoor bathroom that if you had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, you had to like walk out of the house and walk to the outdoor bathroom. And we saw 2 snakes in 6 days. And that's when we were like, man, you could stumble out of the house in the middle of the night and you could step on a snake and you could get bit. And we're in the middle of rural Nicaragua. Bad things could happen to you really fast in that situation. And so we contacted Airbnb, and not only did they refund us for the month, they also gave us $400 to find a new place and get out of there for the next 3 days. I think it was up to like $150 a night or something for like transport and like a new hotel while we figured out where we were going next. And that was super crucial to not like break the budget, because in Nicaragua, especially here in high season, most things are rented. Like if you don't rent ahead of time, your selection on hotels and Airbnbs are going to be limited, because there's only so much rental property around the surf. And if you want to be at a rental property around the surf, you're going to really need to act ahead of time. And in that situation, we had no choice but to rent short term, you know, because we were basically up the creek without a paddle. So I hope you enjoyed these 5, 6 tips on, you know, your next solo trip to Nicaragua. They're gonna come in really useful. So if you did enjoy them, please consider giving the channel a like and subscribe. You know, we're here making content for another 7 weeks or so, and then we're off to the next thing. This is Eric from Sigma Surf. I hope everyone's having a good day. Disfruta la pura vida.